pay cut in order for them to keep him around. He says he doesn't care about the money, and that's going to be tested because the Steelers are definitely going to test him. With Mason Rudolph and now Dwayne Haskins, that ain't gonna cut it. He's very fortunate that that's the fallback plan the Steelers have in place, because there's no way in hell the Steelers should go into next season with Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins as their starting quarterback. So basically, Big Ben could be the quarterback by default so long as he's willing to shave some of the salary that he's owed next season. But in the end, in terms of how much more does he have to prove, he's a two-time champion. He's been to 3 Super Bowls, but it's been a while since that's transpired in his career. He's had opportunities to get it done. He's had elite receivers to work with. He still hasn't been able to get it done. He's no longer considered a star. He's just a name right now in terms of Big Ben. He's not a scrub, but he's no longer that guy. So, I mean, to me, the one thing that he does have to prove is that if you give him the pieces necessary, he can he can stop making some of the predictable mistakes that he has made and lead them to something more than what they have right now. That hasn't been the case, and that's unfortunate. But he's not a scrub. He can still play, and I hope that he ends up staying. He's just going to have to give up some of that money so they can go out and utilize that cap space, or the cap space it'll create, to go out there and get some much-needed help for him, because he can't do it by himself.
Ben Roethlisberger has nothing left to prove. We already know what he was in his career at his best. As you mentioned, Stephen A., he's a multiple-time Super Bowl winner. Once as a young player who was an excellent football player, but not a great quarterback yet, so he'd mess up but then make a tackle in the open field in the playoffs. Remember that? And then another time as a more seasoned quarterback who's a truly great player. I don't think he can win a Super Bowl anymore. I think it's going to be very difficult to win a Super Bowl with Roethlisberger. I agree the offensive line is the issue on that team, as it was for several years, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They can't run block at all. That's why I don't think it's an issue. If you need better running backs, they can't run block. And they can't pass protect. So he's getting rid of the ball super fast and not really a very different kind of style than we're used to seeing him playing. But what does he really have to prove? We know he's going to the Hall of Fame. We know he's truly a great quarterback at his best, and he's had enough career accomplishments. But at his best, he was never, ever the best quarterback in the game. And he usually wasn't even really in the argument for top 3. Here and there, certain years, people maybe would argue maybe he's a top 3 quarterback, but early on it was Brett Favre and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and then it was Drew Brees replacing Brett Favre, and then later on it was Aaron Rodgers replacing Peyton Manning, I guess you'd say, but he was never in that first tier. He was the best of the rest. Or if he wasn't that first tier, he was always the last guy in that first tier. Is that going to suddenly change? If you want to say he has anything to prove, I guess you could say he has to prove he can still win a Super Bowl on the right team, because the Steelers have an excellent defense, and I think they have more or less enough offense. They could draft another offensive weapon. They really have to fix the line. But do you think with a fixed line, Roethlisberger is your Super Bowl quarterback? He's a competent quarterback still. But are you going to win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger now? I don't think so.
I'm not going to call him competent. I think that's kind of disrespectful to him. The guy threw for 3,800 yards. He had 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, completing 65% of his passes. My goodness. That's not to look at him and say he's finished. That's not a finished quarterback. Those are some pretty decent numbers. The problem is they lost 4 of their last 5 games to end the regular season, and then they lost in the postseason to the Cleveland Browns. So they end the season losing 5 of their last 6. And I blame it primarily on their offensive line and their running game. And Pouncey just retired. You got to fix that offensive line, and you got to get a better running back than James Conner. I like James Conner as a person. I love his story. Please don't get me wrong, but I'm just of the mindset you got to get a better running back than James Conner. You just have to do that, or Snell for that matter. When you look at the wideouts that they have available to them with Juju Smith-Schuster and Claypool and Ebron and James Washington and these boys, I just look at them and I say, listen, they got a passing attack. The problem is when they put too much on Ben's shoulders and they say, throw the ball 50 or 60 times and take us there. No. Run the ball, stop the run. That was Mike Tomlin's mantra when he first got introduced as new head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you just got to hope that they can get that together. I hope that Ben's not gone because I don't like their options. I do not like Mason Rudolph as an option. I damn sure don't like Dwayne Haskins as an option. There's no way in hell that you're the Steelers and you can go into the season with one of them as your starting quarterback. This franchise will go nowhere fast.
They got to find the next. They got to find the next guy. They haven't done a good enough job finding the next guy.
But until they do, you keep Big Ben Roethlisberger. You showcase for him how he needs to take this pay cut to help the team move forward, and you go with it from there. He said he's made enough money. It's about playing and it's about winning. Well, guess what? We're going to take the money that we shaved from your salary and we're going to utilize it to get better assets in here to help you do exactly what you say you want to do. That's their option.
Real quick, if you want to look at Tom Brady, who's the GOAT as a blueprint, but as I mentioned earlier, rarely considered the number one player in the sport as like the best guy, you want to look at him as a blueprint? He's the only one that, to my mind, that I can remember off the top of my head, who consistently took less money. He's the only one. And then he's the GOAT. And those two things are probably related, unfortunately.
Yeah, but obviously really different situation with his wife making more money than him. Bird in the hand, better than two in the bush. But fellas, Big Ben was 22nd in total QBR in 2020, sandwiched between Goff and Trubisky. You know what it is. LeBron and Kyrie reunite. Nets Lakers Staples Center tonight. Find out why they're also alive. Tom ranked the GOAT of GOATs recently, and their 7-time Super Bowl champ Tom Brady was numero uno on that list. Brady followed by Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Tiger Woods, and Serena Williams. We bring in 2-time Super Bowl champ Damian Woody to the conversation. Damian, top of the morning to you, sir. I will get to you in just a moment, but I need to start with Max Kellerman first, because Max, I understand you're not really a fan of this list. So could you please give me your top 5 GOATs?
That is an awful list. Oh, NFL.com put Tom Brady number 1. That's a shocker. An awful list. Let me give you the real list, and give me a second here. Let me give you my explanations.
Sure.
Number 1's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete of all time. I think everyone knows that. If the fate of the universe was on the line and everyone around